Hello, welcome to the Art Life video blog, day 157. I'm Paul Hehn.
I'm Jacob Wolf. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you for having me here, Paul.
Sure.
It's been a pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
So do you want to tell us briefly about yourself?
Sure. I'm 55 years old, and I have only been drawing these cartoons for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, in this current form. Over the years, I've drawn cartoons once in a while, but not with quite the same fervor or ease as I do it now. My real job is a writer. I have a research biographical reference website called whoto.com, and I've been doing that since 1998, full-time since maybe 2003 or so. So that's what I do on a regular basis, and because that's desk work, that allows me a few minutes here and there to just whip out little cartoons.
Ease your mind a little bit, whip out a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus it's fun.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't really think of myself as an artist, although I have been drawing cartoons in one way or another since I was a little kid. But I understand that I shouldn't say I'm not an artist because I'll get pushback about that. But in my mind, I'm really more of a writer than a cartoonist.
Okay.
I'm aware I can only draw a certain number of things, and I'm aware that I'm not really I'm not enthusiastic about working harder on being better at drawing. You know, so most of my mental process has to do with the words more than the picture. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say one comes before the other necessarily. Sometimes I'll start drawing just to start doing something, and then the words will come. Generally speaking, I think about the joke, because it's all pretty set up, punchline kind of oriented.
Are they all single cell blocks?
Yeah.
Or do you sometimes do like comic strips?
No, I used to. Maybe in the late 80s, early 90s, I had a job I didn't like, and so I just kind of quit that job. At the time, my wife was in private practice as a lawyer. So, you know, she was making enough money that I could go ahead and quit that job. I thought, well, maybe if I spend a little more effort drawing. And I did a few things for top shelf comics and for, you know, small publications that don't exist anymore. Plasm, which I don't know if exists still. Anyway, it was a, you know, design more than comic type thing. Some newspaper stuff. Didn't make a lot of money at it. And also I realized now I was kind of too ambitious in terms of, I thought I needed to, you know, map it all out, and I would pencil something out and then ink it. And that led to trying to do strips, but I didn't really want to put forth the effort to write out a whole script and then illustrate the whole script. I kind of wanted to be of the moment, and in that form you can't really I can't successfully do that because I would get bogged down in the process. And then I'd have a half-finished comic strip sitting around for weeks and then just not be interested in finishing it. What's good about these little cartoons is I can do one in a few minutes. Used to be 2 or 3 minutes. Now it's more like 6 or 7 minutes. Just because I spend a little bit more time doing it.
A little more detail.
A little more detail. I never used to throw any of the shading behind it at all. And then my brother, who's the artist, said, yeah, if you just do a wash behind him or some sort of shading behind him, I think that really make the drawings pop out. Which is true. So I do that now, even though I kind of recognize I do a fairly crappy job of that. Because usually I'm sitting in a chair, I'm not sitting at a desk. So, you know, and I'm not always around my favorite colored pencil. I'm around a regular pencil. So sometimes I use that. Sometimes it's a brown pencil. I don't feel like getting up and looking for a black pencil. So it's pretty haphazard.
Right on.
But as I say, I don't now get bogged down with an unfinished cartoon. I mean, sometimes I'll draw a character and realize, oh, I have no joke to go with this. So that's what led to, I guess I don't really have any sitting around here, but I would cut out the characters and just make these little, that's a specific birthday one for my nephew.
Oh, you can't.
But there's a ton of them downstairs, and
It's just kind of shining bright.
yeah. Anyway, you just cut them out and then build a makeshift little stand.
That's awesome. Is that a fairly new thing that you're doing?
Uh,
Cutting them out and making stands out of them?
Sort of. Yeah, I have a lot now. I left those around town too, but now I kind of keep most of them on the mantle. Although I'm happy to give them away. I mean, they're easy to make.
Yeah.
That sort of came from when the kids were little. So I used to work full time for McMillan's, right? General manager. Quit that. Stayed home and raised kids. Worked part time around the mid '90s. Started getting work as a freelance writer, mostly for the internet. So a lot of the art projects around here were from when the kids were little, and we would make those little cardboard things, or a board game, or whatever. So both of them are still drawing and painting, and much better at it than I am.
Do you think that you've inspired your children to become artists?
Sure. I think combination of things. We encouraged it. I mean, my wife's actually really good at drawing also, especially horses. She doesn't do it very often, but she's really good at drawing, and I have some of these collages she's made that are great. So we always encouraged it. I think when they got older, knowing that my brother actually made a living at it, also tripped something, you know, like, oh, okay, it's not just a worthless thing that you do, you can actually, you know, make a living at it. And just knowing that there are people who can do that, I think, is probably inspirational in some level.
Definitely.
Plus, they probably saw, you know, since I worked at home as a writer, and my brother a lot of times worked at home painting or designing labels, I think they saw that as appealing. I mean, both of us had our own schedules for the most part. It's not like we had to clock in and clock out, stuff like that. I can see where that has its appeal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Who are some of your inspirations starting out?
Well, as a kid, clearly, Mad Magazine. I read lots of Mad magazines. I still have lots of Mad magazines and books and stuff. So in that respect, it was comic books. But Mad Magazine, especially in those days more than now, I think, it was a lot of writing. And so I think I learned the joke pattern from places like that. When we were kids, we put out, with some friends, this little magazine that we called The Critical. So that was full of, you know, Mad Magazine type humor and cartoons. I didn't do that much drawing. Lyle did most of the drawing. My brother did most of the drawing for that. But still, that was a big influence to think, oh, we can make our own comic book.
Yeah, I mean, making a publication at a young age is kind of a big deal.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And for a while, maybe in the 5th or 6th grade, had access to a mimeograph machine. You know what a mimeograph machine is? Well, it's post-carbon paper, but pre-copy machine.
Okay.
So it was a system of copying things, you know, monotone, blue, in fact. It always came out kind of blue. But a way of copying things. So you could draw like a one-sheet comic and then copy it and give it to your classmates.
Right on.
Yeah. So there's always been that element of wanting to put out your own publication. I remember when I was about 10, my dad published the Coffee Break Review, which was about a maybe 12-page humor publication. I don't think he knew quite what to do with it. And I've been in the same boat. In the early 90s, when I was drawing those comics, I made several issues of an 8-page comic called Mass Hysteria. And I didn't know what to do with them. I took them and dropped them off at coffee shops. But even that made me feel kind of self-conscious. So yeah, I still have that problem when it comes to marketing myself.
Do you date your cartoons? So if you look at one, you would be able to tell.
I don't even sign them.
You don't even sign them?
No, I forget to sign them all the time. I forget meaning the only reason it comes up is if I'm going to send them to somebody. So if somebody sends me stickers, I feel like, well, I should send them some cartoons. And half the time, more than half the time, I throw them in the package, seal it up, and realize, oh, I didn't even put my name on those things. Not that it really matters too much. They know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
When Sticker Nerds 3 was happening, which would be March 2013? 14? I can't remember now.
I have no idea.
They offered me a wall like this size, 4x8 panel for my cartoons, which was really nice. They didn't have to do that at all. And so those I went through, and I have a stamp with my name on it. I went through and stamped the back of those. And when it came to putting them up, I just stapled them, which ruined them, of course. But I sort of figured people would take them off. And only a few people took them, which is fine. I can see where I probably wouldn't even take them, unless somebody told me explicitly, you can take these.
You can.
Yeah. No. It was nice to see them. It turned out to be, I think, 423 of them or something.
Jeez.
Some interesting number anyway. And that was the only time they've ever really been shown in public, except for, when I leave them on the street.
Mm.
But that time, I did stamp every single one. I don't think I might still have some around. You can see what oh, there's a bigger stamp. There's the original one. See, it's pretty tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a stamp shop up the road where you can go and they'll make a stamp out of whatever you can draw. And I think it costs about $8 to get a stamp like that made.
Neat. Might have to do that.
It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. These aren't self-inking. I will confess, years ago I made a little stamp that said, "This art approved." And I went around on stickers in town and stamped, "This art approved" on certain things. Not everything. I wasn't even really discerning one from another. It was pretty random.
It was just like, whatever.
Yeah, and I think some people thought it was funny, but I think some people thought it was rude. So, I'm not out to offend anybody exactly.
Right.
So I don't really do it.
How did you get involved into the sticker scene?
Working at a desk, I try to walk every day. I try to walk at least 2 miles every day, 3 miles, whatever I can. And 5-6 years ago, maybe, on these walks, I started noticing. I think the first ones I noticed were full bleed. I don't know if you've seen any of those. They're rare to see them around now, because I'm talking 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, I think the first ones I took were like 2008, probably. And there really weren't that many stickers around in those days. So you'd see full bleed. I used to see Goo Goo, Art Life PDX.
Okay.
I didn't really know what those were, though, because I don't know if you've seen those. Usually only this big, and it's just a face, and it just says Goo Goo on it.
Yes, I have.
Okay. He takes great photos of stickers also, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, on Instagram anyway.
I didn't know who that was that did the Goo Goos.
Yeah.
I always thought that was Lady Gaga, because Goo Goo Gaga, and so I don't even know if who the picture of the person is.
No, I mean, no.
I always assumed it was Lady Gaga.
No, in fact, I don't know very much about most of these. That's interesting. But so I started taking photos of what I'd see, which, as I say, wasn't that many. And then there was a shop, Home Base, where was it when it was first located? I don't remember. I don't remember how I even found it. But that little shop, they sold toys, and they also sold stickers and stuff like that. That's where I met, say, artists, and they would have the occasional show, and they would sell sticker packs. By that time, I was already taking pictures of Scam stickers and RX stickers, and they were having a show at Home Base, and I wanted to go down there and, see what was what. But I already told these guys that my wife is a DA, figuring they would probably want to know that. Now she's a judge, not a DA. And she didn't care about stickers when she was a DA, and doesn't really care as a judge. That's not her line of work. But I knew that if those guys, thought I was associated with law enforcement, they might want to.
Right.
And they did at first, some more than others, until they realized I was just this harmless guy. So it's, you know, eventually I got to know some of them personally. I've met a lot of them at this or that gathering. And, you know, get along with all of them so far.
Yeah.
See the occasional beef flare up, but I'm not involved in that too much. So.
Right on. Have you made stickers out of your cartoons, or have you just completely stuck to cards?
Just cards. I don't put up stickers. Well, truth is, I have put up a couple of stickers. Not in Portland, but if I've been to Chicago and I've been to Boston, I'll take some. But the thrill of putting up a sticker and almost getting caught eludes me. It's not thrilling to me anymore. Maybe when I was at 17 or something, but now it's like it would be so ridiculously embarrassing to be busted putting
to
up
get like
sticker.
a ticket for that.
Yeah, well, and it's not even that. It's, you know, realistically, I figure I could probably talk my way out of that. But I know that there's a thrill in that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't experience that thrill anymore. It's like, no, I don't want to get caught.
So do you have plans to like make a book out of your stickers? Because I could
Yes.
totally see that happening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, cards, not stickers.
That's okay. Yeah, I've got that stack there that I've kind of gone through. I mentioned, and in November, I had some of these printed up, but I didn't like the result. I didn't have a lot of control going into it. It's, you know, one of these automated systems. They just pull photos from your file, so you don't have a lot of control once they've got the photo. And I realized it just doesn't look that good. I like the format. I like the size of the book and everything.
Yeah.
I spent months trying to look through self-publishing. I sent out some letters to publishers, but it's pretty hard to, you know, do a cold call and get action.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, I'll do self-publishing. The big hang-up for me personally is I don't really want to be in the shipping business or the marketing business. I mean, I like the physical thing of a book. I understand why people want a physical thing of a book, although there is part of me that whenever somebody says, where can I get these cartoons in? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like saying, they're for free. They're right there for free on the computer. Just print it out. But I get it. The book is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great, right? Holding your hand, oh, this is cool.
I love it. Awesome. I've actually seen some of these.
Well, yeah. I scan everything and pretty much put everything online. What have I got to lose?
That's rad.
So, yeah, one goal, is to have it in book form so I could sell them, so I could make some money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my overhead is low.
They remind me kind of like Far Side Gallery.
Well, I can see why, yeah.
Just the single cell cartoons, and I totally imagine like a fat book of all of your cartoons, like the old Far Side Gallery books.
The more in one book, the better, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there are lots of them. And, you know, of course, the good thing about a lot of them is not every one of them has to be funny.
Right.
Or some are going to appeal to some and others aren't going to appeal to others. And that's the joke writing business in general.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think of myself as a professional joke writer, but my partner and I also have another website called Utterly False Trivia, and that's basically joke writing. It's fake trivia, you know. And I've talked to a friend up the street who's a stand-up comedian about this, how to mix up jokes. So like with the cartoons, I don't really spend much effort in placement. I pretty much just publish them as I draw them, or I post them as I draw them, whatever. But when I start thinking hard about a book, it occurs to me, well, there's a pacing that would be good, not necessarily required, but ideally a pacing. I recognize now that some jokes are more popular than others. Types of jokes. I recognize that some characters stick in people's mind. I didn't set out to do that. It's not like I sat down and said, what if I had 6 different characters? But some things are just easier to draw than others. And then people started referring to them as a character, and I realized, oh, okay. And sometimes I feel cheap for a joke. Like, this is a cheap joke. Knowing that it'll probably get a better response. And then other times I know that this joke is just so obscure, nobody's even going to appreciate it. But I can't let go of it. As I said, talking to this stand-up comedian, I asked him specifically about that. He said, are there jokes in your act that you feel embarrassed to tell? He says, oh yeah. But I keep them in because they're popular. I said, are there jokes in your act that nobody responds to, but you keep them in anyway? He says, oh yeah. Nobody laughs, maybe one guy laughs. But then I think, oh, that's worth it. I was like, well, yeah.
That joke's for you, man.
Well, and that one guy thinks also, hey, I'm the only one who laughed at this. So, knowing that, I don't know how people are going to react in general. Sometimes I can sort of guess. But I also know better than to think about it too hard, because then you get emotionally invested in a particular joke or a particular cartoon. And then, oh, that one only got 15 likes. Oh no. I don't spend much time thinking about that. Fortunately, I don't spend a lot of time on social media looking at other people's stuff either. Sometimes I think maybe I should, but mostly it's a broadcast platform for me. Facebook, Instagram, and pdxstickers.com, paulhehn.com. But yeah, I don't really too often look at other people's stuff. Sometimes.
I didn't know that you had the pdxstickers.com or the paulhehn.com. I'll have to check those out. I've only seen you on Instagram.
Huh?
That's where I spend a lot of my time.
Yeah, that's where, well, I have 2 Instagram accounts too.
Really?
Yes, because a few months ago, and I started thinking, arrogantly, oh, I've reached this new level because people were starting to talk about me on my Instagram feed as if I wasn't there. Right? Making a comment about me like, hey, I'm reading that, And one of the comments was, love this feed except for all the sticker photos. So I thought, oh, okay. So I just created a new account for just cartoons.
Right on. I'll have to check that out too.
Yeah, it's Paul Hehn. But I'm kind of more of a slacker at keeping it up to date. I started out trying to be a little more careful about what goes on there. So in other words, only ones I really like. I don't put on there. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't know that I'm going to like that cartoon 6 months from now, so there's still a roll of the dice involved.
Do you have any other goals, plans for yourself, for your art?
No, not really. I like this cartoon thing. As I say, I can carry these cards with me. I can carry the pens with me. I use 2 kinds of pens. One for the actual drawing and one for shading. And I try to stretch a little bit in drawing skills, but not too much. It's just easier for me to do a default couple of characters and the words. I can see down the line maybe getting bored with that, or maybe not bored, but wanting to do something else. As I say, it's fun to make these little cardboard things because it's a physical thing, and it doesn't take very long, and it's something different from drawing a cartoon. So I understand that you can get bored doing the same thing.
Definitely.
But I'm telling myself now that the current system doesn't require a lot of process. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the drawing before, what got me down was the process. I know that to a lot of people, the process is what it's all about. To a lot of artists, it's the process is the freeing part, maybe, I don't know. But for me, I understand you can get into it. And if you really want to focus on details, I can get interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part of me that's, kind of goes, wow, 15 minutes for a cartoon, that's just too much. I could have drawn 5 different cartoons instead of just this one.
Right. And then, like you said, not all of them are going to be home runs, but
Yeah.
maybe instead of the one that took 15 minutes, you do 5, and 3 of those are home runs.
Yeah, maybe. The other thing I recently started doing, and which I didn't do for a long time because it felt like cheating, is redraw an old cartoon. Because I'll look through, I've given away most of them now, but I would look through old cartoons and go, so that's a good joke, it's just a shitty drawing. Or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good drawing, but not a very good joke. There's not too much to do. I can't really replicate the drawing. Personally, I have a hard time with that. I mean, I can draw myself over and over again, but to try to duplicate the same character, which is what makes comic strips so hard, that's
because they have to
tough.
be in different positions.
Yeah, you have to make it look like the same
right.
character. Years ago, I had a character called Squirty, this dog, and that was totally because I realized if you're going to do a comic strip, I have to create a character that I can easily draw the same way every time. So, I just draw the same head, not even the whole body. And you could tell, in fact, the head is good, but not my body. But doing this the way, I don't have to worry about stuff like that. Get bogged down in thinking about it. And, as I say, you can't, if I see a cartoon that's got a nice drawing but a dumb joke, I realize there's not much I can do about that. I'm not going to be able to redraw that thing. I could try, but I guarantee you it's not going to come out the same. A lot of times the joke is funny because of the expression on the person's face, and there's a, intention in what I want in their face, but it doesn't always come out that way. So I just roll with it. If it doesn't work, I draw another one.
The last thing that I wanted to talk about is a gallery that I throw every once in a while. It's kind of been a little bit, but there should be 2 coming up fairly soon. One will be the about 1 year anniversary of me doing interviews and the video blog and the gallery. So I will be sending invites to all of the artists that I've interviewed in the past year and a half for that. Year and a couple months. And I had a venue, it kind of fell through, so I'm looking for a new venue. If anybody knows somewhere, please let me know, because that sucks right now. And then generally the gallery is at my home, so there will be another one coming up at my home where just some of the more recent artists that I've interviewed will get invites to that. And there's always free booze, free food, ton of artists, live music. We paint on the walls. We do a raffle. I ask all of the artists that I've interviewed if there's something small they wouldn't mind donating to this raffle. And any of the guests that come in want to donate $5 or more to the video blog and the gallery, they get a raffle ticket. And very last thing we do at the end of the night is give away a bunch of art. Everybody lines up and choose one piece and draw it out of a hat, and people get stoked on $5, $10 art. There's so many talented artists in Portland. So expect a couple invites to those. As soon as I figure out a few more details on those, I'll be sending you a couple invites.
Great.
Do you have any last comments, questions, concerns?
I don't think so. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too,
Paul. Rattle on.
It's been a pleasure. Art Life Video Blog, day, what did we say, 157?
157, I think.
That's Paul Hehn, PDX Stickers, Jacob Wolf. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you later.